Eve. Wake up, Eve.
What is it?
I'm hungry.
Oh. Here, have an apple.
I'm hungrier than that.
Okay, here, try this.
What is it?
Well, it sure didn't grow on a tree.
What do I do with it?
Cook it.
Oh. What's cook?
Well, first you have to build a fire.
Oh. Eve, what's fire? Well, it might not have occurred exactly like that, but it's a pretty sure bet that once man
and woman
discovered fire, one of the first culinary achievements to follow was meat cookery.
However, meat cooking does not necessarily make the meat tender, juicy, and easy to chew. The quality of meat and the method of cooking are contributing factors.
Now, especially in beef, which we'll be using for our demonstrations, the tenderness of the cut is determined by the part of the animal from which the meat is taken. The legs and shoulders receive the most exercise, so these cuts will be less tender. This is because exercise of muscle fiber reduces fat and produces connective tissue, a tough elastic substance. So, the softening of the connective tissue is the major goal when cooking these cuts. Adding liquid, covering, and cooking at low temperatures accomplishes this and is called moist heat cooking.
The parts from the upper ribs and backbone are least exercised and have greater fat cover, as well as interior fat, called marbling. This melts during cooking and keeps the meat moist and juicy. Therefore, these cuts may be cooked uncovered by exposure to a dry heat source, called dry heat cooking. There are many techniques of dry heat cookery. Roasting is one. It is used for large cuts of tender meat, such as this rib roast. Preparation is simple. Season before or after roasting. Apply by rubbing onto the surface. Be aware that seasonings, including salt, penetrate less than 1/2 inch and mostly end up in the drippings. Place the meat, fat side up, on a rack in a shallow pan. The rack supports the roast out of melted fat and increases circulation of hot air around the meat. Since the degree of doneness is related to the internal temperature, a meat thermometer is essential. Insert it into the roast so that the tip is in the center of the thickest muscle and does not touch fat or bone, either of which give a false reading. A meat thermometer gives much more reliable results than cookbook guides of minutes per pound. Place in a preheated oven. 300 to 325 degrees is recommended. When roasting, you are working with the prize cuts, which are also going to be the most expensive. Allow sufficient time to achieve good results. A low temperature causes less weight loss and produces meat that is juicier, more uniformly done, more tender, and with better flavor than higher temperatures. Observe that the hot air has begun to melt the fat. This keeps the meat moist. Spooning drippings over the roast has little advantage and wastes energy just opening the oven door. Meat proteins begin to coagulate at 140 degrees internally. This is the minimum temperature to which beef should be cooked. However, meat continues to cook after it is removed from the oven. Retained heat will raise the temperature 5 to 10 degrees, so always remove a roast before the desired temperature is reached.
Rare beef, because it shrinks less, will yield more servings per pound. However, personal preference may favor a medium or well-done roast. A standing time of 15 to 20 minutes allows the meat juices to set and the roast becomes easier to carve. Carve it by slicing across the muscle grain, which allows for easier chewing. In this case, a horizontal carving position is more stable for a rib roast, using the tip of the knife to release the meat along the rib bone for each slice. The same cuts of beef which are suitable for dry heat roasting may be cut into steaks and oven broiled or grilled over charcoal. Both broiling and grilling are techniques of cooking by direct exposure to heat. Steaks for this method should be at least 3/4 to 2 inches thick. We're going to broil a sirloin steak. Slash the fat to prevent curling. Place the meat on the rack of a broiler pan. The holes allow fat to drain away from the meat. The distance from the heat source depends upon the thickness of the steak. Thinner steaks should be placed closer to the heat, and thicker ones farther to prevent an overdone exterior. Close the oven door on gas ovens, but leave it ajar on electric ones to prevent steam from accumulating. Broil until the top of the meat is browned and cooked about halfway through. Salt tends to delay browning and causes unintentional overcooking, so season each side after it is cooked. Then turn, using tongs. Forks pierce the meat, allowing juices to be lost. Of course, browning is a guide to doneness, but a quick check with a meat thermometer inserted horizontally will be even more reliable. Always remove the pan to a solid surface to prevent spills and burns. Color may be checked with a slash halfway through the meat. A steak this size will require 30 to 40 minutes to broil. Use the same temperature guide as for roasts. Thick steaks are carved across the width of the steak after the bone is removed.
The same tender cuts, which are broiled, should be pan-broiled if less than 1 inch thick. Often the bone is removed to allow them to conform to the pan better. These are rib steaks. The best utensil to use is a heavy metal skillet or griddle, which holds and distributes the heat evenly. Use no added liquid or grease and do not cover. Cook slowly over moderate heat. Excessive splattering indicates the temperature is too high. Little change in appearance means it's too low. Turn meat occasionally to ensure even cooking. When curling occurs, slash the fat. Drain away excess fat if it accumulates. This requires care not to get burned or to spill grease, which could ignite. Test doneness by making a slash to check the color of the cooked meat. Season as desired after cooking. For comparable pieces of meat, pan broiling takes about half the time of broiling.
Frying is the correct terminology for meat cooked with added fat, but since no liquid is added, it is considered a dry heat technique. When only a small amount of fat is used, the method is called pan frying or sautéing. This technique is used for thin, tender cuts or cuts which have been tenderized. We're using tenderized round steak. Cut into serving-sized pieces, removing connective tissue and fat. For pan frying, the meat is often coated with seasoned crumbs, called breading. Dip the meat in a mixture of milk and beaten egg, and then in breadcrumbs. The coating becomes crisp in the heated oil, but keeps the thin piece of meat moist and free from excessive shrinkage. Do not cover the pan during browning, or the resulting steam will take away the crispness. Turn occasionally to ensure thorough cooking. Serve hot.
When food is totally immersed in fat, it is called deep fat frying. If an electric deep fat fryer is not available, use a deep pan with a wire basket to fit and enough oil to cover the meat. A deep fat thermometer is also essential. Animal fats, such as lard and butter, smoke at lower temperatures than do vegetable oils. This is why vegetable oils are preferable for deep fat frying. All fats and oils decompose and produce an unpleasant aroma and flavor if heated beyond their smoking points. Preheat the oil to the correct temperature, 300 to 360 degrees, depending on the type of meat. The thermometer should not touch the bottom of the pan, which would be hotter than the oil. We're using tender beef and liver cut into cubes. Fry only enough meat to cover the bottom of the basket. Overloading lowers the temperature of the oil and the food becomes grease-soaked. Lower the basket into the hot oil gradually to prevent splattering. Fry only until the meat is brown. Remove a portion to test for doneness. Beef cubes can be rare to well done. Liver should be browned throughout, but still juicy. When done, lift the basket and drain well over the hot oil. Then transfer to paper towels to absorb the excess grease.
It's obvious that over half of a beef carcass is made up of the more exercised muscles. Each muscle which moves is wrapped in connective tissue, these creamy white thread-like strands. And the brisket and flank contain these long, coarse muscle fibers. There are two ways to overcome these problems in less tender cuts: using moist heat cooking methods, which add moisture during the cooking process, or tenderizing the cuts before cooking. Tenderizing renders some cuts acceptable for dry heat cooking. The most common tenderizing method is grinding, or pounding with a mallet, both of which break up connective tissue and soften coarse, lean meat fiber. Grocery stores have machines which do this for you. Or you can marinate meat to flavor and tenderize it. A marinade is a solution containing acid ingredients, such as vinegar, tomato juice, or wine, in which meat is soaked for a length of time. Or use commercially available powdered tenderizers, which contain an enzyme derived from papaya fruit. Sprinkle on moistened meat, pierce, and let stand.
Now, whether or not you tenderize, there are two kinds of moist heat cookery for less tender cuts: cooking in a small amount of liquid and cooking in a large amount of liquid. When using only a small amount of added liquid and thin cuts, the process is called braising and is done in a covered skillet on the range top. The same technique is called pot roasting when using large cuts of meat and is done in a 4-quart deep pan called the Dutch oven. We'll demonstrate this technique with the chuck arm pot roast. First, brown the meat in a small amount of heated fat. Browning develops flavor and eye appeal. Do not rush this browning. Use a medium temperature. A slow brown stays on the meat better than a quick brown. Remove meat from the pan and pour off the excess grease. Now, the drippings and coagulated meat juices should be softened with about a cup of liquid, compatible to the meat: water, wine, or meat stock. Scrape up the drippings over high heat with a wooden spoon. This process is called deglazing a pan. Season the meat and return it to the cooking utensil. Cover with a tight lid and cook at a low temperature until tender. This may be simmered on top of the range or in a 325-degree oven. Add vegetables at least 1/2 hour before the roast is done. Minutes per pound guides are especially useful in moist heat cooking. When done, meat and vegetables should be fork tender.
A method appropriate for stews, soups, and corned beef brisket is cooking in a large amount of liquid. This means that the meat is entirely covered by liquid. Shank cut with beans, corned beef brisket with cabbage, and stew are prepared with this method. We're demonstrating beef stew. Browning is optional depending upon the meat used. If the beef cubes are coated with seasoned flour, called dredging, they must be browned before cooking. Then add just enough liquid to cover the meat. The large amount of liquid in this cooking method dilutes the flavor of the meat, so this is a good opportunity to create exciting flavor interest with spices and herbs. Simmer until done 2.5 to 3 hours. And add vegetables at least 1/2 hour before the meat is tender. That just about covers dry and moist heat cooking methods. Of course, any of these techniques can be applied to meats other than beef.
However, meat cookery is not complete without considering gravy and sauce making. Meats are a good source of B vitamins, which are water soluble. Don't let these vitamins, which are dissolved in cooking liquids, go to waste. Use them in gravies and sauces. If you want to thicken the liquid from stew, remove the meat and vegetables. Make a smooth paste of equal parts cool water and cornstarch. Add to the meat liquid gradually and stir to blend well. Cook gently until thick. Then add the meat and vegetables and serve.
Now to prepare gravy for a roast. While the meat is standing, drain the drippings, including the coagulated meat juices. Always use the drippings from meat, but remove excess fat. Fat rises to the top, so a skimmer aids in separating it. Measure equal parts fat and flour. Heat till bubbly and cook 2 or 3 minutes until the raw flour taste is gone. Then add the drippings and extra liquid and cook until the mixture thickens. Be sure to taste and season accordingly. The ratio of flour to liquid for a gravy is 2 tablespoons flour to 1.5 cups liquid. Well, then that does cover it.
Very funny. Well, that's meat cookery. It's a little more complicated now than when the first man
And woman.
cooked wild meat over the first fire.
But it's well worth the effort. Here, try some of this stew. Adam never had it so good.
Oh? I don't know about that.